Welcome to Virtual Coffee with Dawn Rickabaugh, the Note Queen, where we talk about owner financing and notes. Financial solutions, one mom and pop to another.
Okay, well, welcome to, what is this? This is April 2018. This is our virtual coffee Q&A, and I absolutely love these calls when we can learn to understand the discounted note market or the secondary market for owner carry paper. There are so many more solutions that we can create in the marketplace, and we don't have to depend on large institutional investors. So that is why I'm so passionate, because when we learn these tools, we can create solutions just one mom and pop to another. Not that there's not a place for institutional money, of course there is, but just as a personal religion, I don't use them at all unless I'm leveraging them in an already created note, taking a property subject to, for instance. So like, I just never ask a bank whether or not I can have permission to close on a real estate deal. And I don't buy institutional paper. So I'm very kind of the old school traditional, where the note business means the owner carry paper, that it's meant for decades and decades and decades, with just this last big downturn creating a ton of non-performing notes that are making it out to all of us at this point. And I think probably another downturn awaiting in the wings that'll create a whole bunch more. So anyway, I appreciate you spending your time with me today. And we're talking about anything having to do with owner financing and notes. If you're looking for someone who's super knowledgeable about institutional paper, that is not me. I mean, I hang around the conversation enough that I can pick up some pieces, but I know there's a lot of players in the market that I respect that I would refer you to for that. So anyhow, well, just before Brandon gets off on his bike ride, which I'm jealous of, I was in the gym yesterday with my daughter, and she's trying to get me to do these sort of jumpy things with bands around my knees, and my heart rate was so high. I'm just going, oh my gosh. With the good weather, I've got to get out and do some more hiking and biking and things like that, or else I'm never going to be able to be fit enough for there's a backpacking trip that I'm planning with all the family in August. So anyway, so Brandon, you were on, are you there? Can we bring Brandon back on? Unmute him. I love it when I have return people that, you were, Brandon was a hot seat, I don't know, a month or 2 months ago, Brandon, and I always like to hear the what happened story, or, where have you been in the last month or two? Do you mind just giving us a quick recap before you start pedaling?
Yeah, of course. That's perfect timing. So I kind of just been sick of hearing all these free webinars and not getting any skin in the game. So yeah. I just decided to, I think I told you I had just checked out, or I was about to check out DME, the Distressed Mortgage Expo.
Oh, right.
Early February.
Uh-huh.
So I think I was just on the verge of like going there and getting some business cards out.
Yeah.
I've I've been in touch with Bill McCafferty out in PA.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went out and connected with him more in person over lunch.
That's fantastic.
We kind of met like Plymouth meeting or somewhere. We met somewhere, halfway, or I went out a little bit farther and just picked his brain, just see how he sets himself up and organizes in Excel.
You got that for the price of buying in lunch?
That's pretty good, right?
That's really good.
Pretty good exchange.
Right?
More for value on my end.
So awesome. Yeah.
And I've just been navigating the waters, little by little, just trying to get proficient and educated in the lingo and culture, how things are done. It still seems like, from who I'm talking to, things are overpriced, right? Unless you're buying in $1 million or a couple million like pools. That's my impression from reading, Bigger Pockets and talking to different investors or people who would be investors.
Uh-huh.
And the latest move, I'm just trying to get my Prudential 401k. I finally got it released like Tuesday from the old employer.
Right. How long did that take, by the way, for them to let go of your
I've been checking it like every day. I'm eager. I've been checking it every day, every second, third day, depending how, day to day, how busy I am.
Right.
So I've been logging in. I know my password pretty well on that account. So it took about 6.5 weeks.
Wow.
2 to 6 weeks.
Not
So
too
it's pretty
anxious
good.
to let go of the money.
I have till like July 9th to move it, or else I get into a forced prudential plan. So that's my motivation to. I've been talking, there's a bunch of them. I'm talking to Kama plan out of PA. I like that it's more local and they have some events going on.
Yeah,
And
so they educate in your local market as well as
yeah, I heard they invest as well from Bill. I think he has some accounts over there too. A
Okay,
couple,
well, so basically you took action, you went to the meeting, you followed up, you networked, because in the end, no matter what kind of business you're doing, generally, unless you're just a day trader,
right.
with cryptos, like this is a people business. It's about
Exactly. You got to keep up with the right
then
people, it seems.
then you are at the cusp of being able to invest your own funds with a rollover. Right. So that's
Exactly.
phenomenal. So you're really poised, but you're saying, gosh, things are really priced high. I'm not sure how to get in. Is there, in the next 30 seconds, can we just wrap up kind of where your trajectory now is?
So I also picked up some equity, some common shares in a crowdfunding platform around fix and flip real estate. Because while I only have like a couple thousand in the 401k, I want to grow it and get some decent interest on it. But before I set all that up, they said an LLC and would be better than just having it held in your personal account name. So I'm just working on getting a good attorney.
Well, if you're going to have a self-directed 401k, you got to roll it over into one of those custodians, right?
No, I know about that, but paired with that, I've been advised to put some kind of structure together.
Okay, so does that mean you're going to have a checkbook LLC basic,
Right, check writing capability, exactly.
Yeah, that makes it easier, yeah. But, well, fantastic. I really appreciate you just touching back. I like to hear what happened to people. And
of course, appreciate the time to air my story.
All right,
my evolving story.
All right, thank you, Brandon. Look forward to have a good time on your ride. So I don't know if you're still going to be with us, just quiet or what. But and don't fall, and wear helmet, all that. Okay.
I'll try to keep one earbud out.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Brandon.
I'll enjoy the rest of the call with some wind on my face. But
okay, that sounds the platform. That sounds awesome. Anyway, well, Hector just submitted a question. It's a really great question. So we're going to go ahead and anyway, Hector asked, some real estate investors believe that a house sold with owner financing is more valuable or should be sold for more, is what I'm assuming, a premium, because since the buyer doesn't have to get a bank loan, the price can be bumped up a little. Yes, that's what he's seen. So look, if I'm offer owner financing, I can ask for a premium on the price. And that for selling the property, that is absolutely true. But he says some note investors believe the sales price should stay strictly in line with the comps. So he's saying when I create the paper, a lot of my note buyers, that I'm shopping my note to after I create it, aren't really happy with me bumping the price. Do you think owner financing adds value in the house market? Now, I think owner financing is one of the most powerful tools for mom and pops to work directly with each other. Whether I'm buying a property, I love owner financing. In fact, since I don't get bank loans, I only buy with cash or owner carry. And of course, if I buy for cash, then the price is going to be lower. I can pay more if an owner will give me terms, right? So like I have mentioned before, I'm sure, I bought the house we were living in with owner carry. I just bought a 3-acre ranch east of here with like 15% down and 3.5% 20-year financing. I'm like, gosh, that adds a lot of value because I can control that property. I can leverage it with, not a ton of money out of my pocket. So it's just phenomenal. I couldn't have paid, if I would have needed to pay cash for that ranch, it would have to have been probably anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 less in purchase price. So yes, owner financing is awesome. Owner financing can also, when I'm selling a property with owner carry, I usually bump the price up and I can justify it because yes, I'm offering the property with owner financing. But that's because I am going to keep that note, right? So I don't, or if anything, I'm only selling off the small front end partial of the note. So the problem you get into is so when I have to put on the note buyer hat. If I'm buying a note, then I have a whole different thing. And what I'm looking at is I don't like it if the property was sold for more, and I'm buying the whole note, not just a small front end partial or something. I don't like it when they've sold it for more, because what that does is means that the person, even if they put a big down payment down, they really don't have as much real or perceived even equity, right? Because they paid more. So if they get into trouble, if they don't have a lot of equity, even instant equity, when they get into the property, there's a bigger chance when push comes to shove that they're going to default, unless the note payment's cheaper than any other rent in the neighborhood, right? So when I'm buying a note, I really don't like to see that it was sold for more than it's worth, because of the reason I just said, because I'm going to get a BPO or an appraisal to check out the value of that collateral. And I'm mostly a collateral based, thinking person. Credit's nice, but it doesn't always make or break a deal for me. But I also won't buy more than, I won't usually risk more than 65% against the collateral. So meaning, regardless of what the note amount is, if the property's worth $100,000, there's no way, regardless of the yield that my calculator says, that I'm going to put more than 65,000 against that property. Like I said, if it's way high, if the property's really worth 100 and someone sold it for 120 and there was 20,000 down, for all intents and purposes, that borrower has 100% loan to value kind of, they don't really have any equity, right? So if the market drops, if they lose their job, it's going to be easier for them to walk away because I don't have any equity. So I would say, if you're thinking of selling your paper, your note, and you want to sell a full note, 100% of the note, not just a partial, I would definitely say do not inflate the price for owner carry. In fact, sometimes if you sell below and that borrower that you sold to gets instant equity the minute, that they're in, and they feel like they got a really good deal and they have a lot to lose, even if time gets tough, it just makes for a better transaction overall. But personally, for me, when I carry, I do bump the price up, and I don't factor in, I hold my notes, like I said, or I have, investing financial partners that will give me what I want for my paper anyway. But I usually I'm going to only sell them a partial because I want to keep them safe. So even though I can get easy and low priced money, I would say, if my investing partners are pretty much happy with 7 and 8% these days. I used to have to pay a lot more for financial partners. So anyway, so even if I know that someone would give me 100% of my note at 7%, I won't put them there because I have to keep their investment to value reasonable. I will never let them go more than 65 cents on the value of the collateral. Because this is a really good concept to talk about. Anyone have anything to add?
There's a question from, if you look at your chat, it's from SRI. It says, if the idea is for the borrower to refinance the bank 24 months after you owner finance, would you bump the price?
No, because see, the bank loan's going to go off of their appraisal, right? So anytime you're going to have to get an appraisal, and if they go, oh, well, so you bump the price. So what happens if then the appraisal comes in lower? So even with, let's say they put 10% down, 20% down, but because you sold it for more of a price, the loan amount that they need to take it out, it won't appraise, right? So unless the bank is willing to give them a 90% loan, and you gave them an 80% loan, there'll be a disconnect there. And the thing, if your exit strategy and if all of your profit in doing a deal is based on the fact that you have a short balloon, that they're gonna refinance pretty soon, and that's when you're gonna take your profit on the deal, then don't risk it by overpricing the property. Maybe a little, maybe 5%, maybe. it just depends on how big of a down payment they have and what kind of a loan they can qualify for. If the only loan they can get's a, 80% loan to value, the numbers just aren't going to work out. So I would be very careful with that. If you can afford to hold long term either way and extend the loan out, don't worry about it. But if you're really, really vested in getting out of that deal pretty quickly, then I would make it as easy as possible for the banks to underwrite that loan and get the person out of it, because that's where you get the juice. If that was your whole model, is like rehab a property, owner finance, let them repair their credit, then sell out the paper or have them refinance, then you better set it up for success that way. Okay, any more questions or comments? Alice,
Yeah.
are you there?
Yeah, I am. Hi.
Hi.
This is
Welcome.
Alice from Denver, even though
Hi.
Kansas City number. Hi. I first time I've listened to you, and this is great.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm a real estate broker, so I have a different pool of knowledge, but I don't really know much about holding notes and selling notes.
Oh my gosh, I just feel like it's the biggest like ka-ching if I get a real estate professional on here. So welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank
We need
you.
more of you guys to understand this other side of it.
Yeah, well, I kind of swim with investors, and a lot of realtors and brokers around me do
Gotcha.
a lot with notes.
Oh, fantastic.
and do hard money loans and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a new area of knowledge for me. So it's cool.
Right.
And having a lot of fun. So it seems like you mentioned the 65% loan to value just a little bit ago. And I think it kind of blew by me. Where did that fit in? And then I also want to ask, like, when you look at a kind of a healthy portfolio, how much of that is going to be like these loans that you think, somebody's going to cash out or refi within a couple of years, and then which ones do you hold? So I kind of like to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, let's take the first one again. Is when I threw out the 65% number, where did it come from? Let's handle that, because with these gray hairs that are coming in, I can only hang on to a couple things at a time. So all right, so just to be clear, so like you have a lot of hard money lenders, a lot of people know hard money lenders, and we understand they generally have their criteria, right? What is it? They just throw out a number of some hard money people, what's their max loan to value?
Oh geez, I know some that'll do 100.
Right. Well, depending. Okay, that's okay. The operator is experienced. Maybe they're getting way below market properties, but in general, I mean,
at least 10% down, and either between 10 and 14%, and between 2 and 3 points.
That is crazy. For hard money, that is absolutely phenomenal. So basically you're saying they'll do a 90% loan, 2 points, anywhere from 10 to 14% interest. Okay. Well, in the old days, okay, so, in the conservative days, 65% was a very standard number for hard money lenders. And now with the climate that we have now, where there is a lot of money chasing both property and paper, the risk tolerance has gone up. I'll see people buying a non-performing note, maybe 90 cents on the dollar, for higher than I would pay for the actual property if it was listed as an REO. So it's insane. Money is crazy looking for safety and diversification and everything. So people are taking on more risk. Prices are going up, margins are getting tighter in general. Now you always have those players that are, I'm not saying there's not deals out there. There are, but does that make sense to you? Like, Alice, that you've seen prices go up, margins get tighter, money getting more comfortable with higher loan to value, with more risk, right? Because
I'm in Denver. So,
well, it's super hot there, right?
Denver market's crazy. Yeah.
Super hot there, right? Yeah. So, it's kind of like saying, so let me ask you this, just out of curiosity, Alice. In the last downturn, how much of a percentage drop did you guys go down there?
You know what? I wasn't in Denver at that time, but I'd say it could be as much as like 35, 40%.
So
But it's
point being,
bounced.
yeah,
We
it
had
bounced.
big
Right.
time.
Yeah, no, here in Northwestern Nevada, I wasn't here either. I was in Southern California where things kind of dropped too. But here in Northwestern Nevada, in the last downturn, it wasn't uncommon for deflation of anywhere from 35 to 50%. So when someone has done a hard money loan, and I'm not saying there's situations where, oh, but we got it at 50 cents on the dollar and all these other things, but just as a concept, if the acquisition price, if I'm the lender, if I'm the private money lender, someone says, hey, I got this property under contract for $100,000. I have my own rehab money. I need a loan from you at 90%. So if I do a 90% loan to value loan to that person, in a stable or appreciating market, and if that operator knows what they're doing and they actually finish the work, they put their money in and they churn it quickly, they have the velocity down, then it's all fine. But what if something happens, they don't finish the work, and then the market has a 35% decrease? Now I've got a $90,000 loan against a property whose as is cash value is $65,000. Does that make sense? Right. So really, right. It's a lot of risk. So that's why people, the last downturn, a lot of people, especially if they had a lot of projects going at the same time, man, did they get hit hard. Because when the market drops, it goes so fast. So I'm just saying we're seeing a lot more risk for appetite for risk. And like I said, money is chasing places to go. So anyway, so I'm just saying that I'm very conservative, because I'm already pricing in a likely softening of the market. So just typically, I don't do loans. Like I wouldn't make a loan against a $100,000 acquisition. I would only loan $65,000 of that. So it's kind of like a hard money mindset of risk. So I understand I'm not going to do many loans, because if an investor can get more leverage and go to someone who'll give them $90,000, that's where they're going to go. Right? So I'm not competitive in that market, but I'm really conservative, and I don't have to have super high volume, and I don't like being spread too thin, or having too many deals going that are predicated upon the market holding still and staying solid for through the whole deal. So I'm taking that hard money mindset of I would only loan $65,000 against a $100,000 property. So I'd want $35,000 cash from the investor, plus them having their own rehab money. But in exchange, I'd probably be a lower rate, right? I'd probably give them, instead of 10 to 14%, they'd probably get 8%, something like that, because I have more, right? So I just take that underwriting in my mind, and so 65%, when I'm buying a note or making a loan, that number's still in my head, because at the end of the day, the collateral, since I'm not a big credit score person, that's not how a lot of the institutions are very heavily credit score driven, like people getting loans or the large institutional note buyers. The credit score makes or breaks a deal for them. But for me, I'm just a collateral-based thinking person in general. So even if I'm buying a note, let's say the property sold for $120,000 or $100,000. Okay, just keep the numbers straight, or apples to apples. Property sold for $100,000. The people put down $10,000, and then there's a $90,000 note. Well, I'm looking at of course, I like my little yield calculations, with HB 10B2. But first I look at risk. I go, what's the most, based on the value of the collateral, what's the most I will risk against this property? And it's going to be the same number, 65%. So that $90,000 note, no matter how it's written, I can't buy for more than $65,000 because of my risk, thinking of risk first. So if there was a 20% down payment and there was an $80,000 note, I could maybe, depending on the terms, buy that for $65,000, but no more. You see what I'm saying? So whether I'm making a loan or buying a note on the secondary market, my underwriting is still at 65% of the value of the collateral, with sometimes a little squeak up or down depending on other circumstances. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, it's good. I think it sounds like you just have a really clear parameter that you stick with, is what I'm kind of getting from your
Right. And so there's many note buyers. And so you, just like those hard money lenders will go up really high, 90, 100%, which I would never, ever do, because you get caught in the downturn and ka-ching, you not only don't get your return, but you don't get all your principal back. There was tons of people that lost a lot of money in the last downturn. And I think it's not going to be that far, but long before we have another change up in the marketplace. But you have note buyers, like you have your larger institutional buyers like FNAC and oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to just pick. There's several larger institutional buyers. Since I don't work with them, I'm just strictly mom and pop. I don't do anything with large institutions. It's just my preference. But they might buy that note, that $90,000 note at 95 cents on the dollar, or even 97 or 90. That's much more than I would pay. But every investor, and I'll pay more for local paper because I know if something goes sideways, it's in my backyard. Or I'll pay more for paper that's in a deed of trust state where it's quick and easy to foreclose versus a mortgage state that could take 2-3 years. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of different
that's
right? Now, let me ask you this, Alice, because now I'm going to ask you for something. I want some clarification. I heard not too long ago that in Colorado, they almost made it impossible for real estate brokers to participate in an owner carry sale with a homeowner.
No, I'm not aware of that at all. I work mostly with investors, so that's a pretty common option. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did I hear
we
that?
have to disclose like crazy. I mean, if you're
Yeah, it was like they
if
made it really
personally involved, if they're personally involved.
no. Just as
just the broker.
I had just thought that that there was the DRE in Colorado had made it very dicey and risky for the average real estate professional to be involved in a transaction involving owner financing. I just had that in my mind.
No, nope. My firm works with about 1,500 small mom and pop investors, and that's always an option.
Fantastic. Why don't you just thank you for that. Pitch yourself. How do people find you if they're in the Denver, Colorado area or want to be, or how do they find you, Alice?
Thank you. Thanks for that. So my name's Alice Brink, and I work with A Better Way Realty. And my email is alice@abetterwayrealty.com. My phone number is 816-365-9496. That's still my Kansas City number. I like it. I have a Denver number, but I can never remember that one. So,
well, fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, bringing that up. That it can be confusing. So I always appreciate when people ask for clarification. And now, as promised, I don't remember what the other thing you wanted to talk about is. Yes, remember there's a part.
Yes. I have a few of those grays too. I'm like, what did I just say? Okay, so what's kind of the complexion of your portfolio?
Oh, portfolio.
Yeah.
Are you talking about just like a holding portfolio? Like for me personally, like what's my strategy in my own personal portfolio?
Yeah, or what your thoughts are, what a healthy complexion is like how many of these things you're holding, how many do you anticipate or do you write so there's a balloon in two, that kind of thing.
Okay, this is like just for you. Like if you're managing your own funds, you have some self-directed IRAs and 401ks and HSAs potentially, right? That kind of a thing.
Yeah, because I'm just now stepping into wanting to invest for myself.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so for me, here's what I like. I'm definitely a lot heavier in paper than I am property, but I like both. I like some property and some paper. So when I first moved up here to Northwestern Nevada, here in Carson City, I had no property except for my house, right? So I had only paper, and I go, this is imbalanced. I need to add some property. And so in the last 18 months, I added 5 buy and hold properties. And except for my primary residence, all of them are, one's kind of a second home, and I'm waiting for those grandbabies. Someday I'm going to get grandbabies that want to come play and, hang out at the ranch and have
Absolutely.
ride horses. Well, I can't manage the horses. I've got to figure that one out. But, quads and go down by the river and stuff like that. So anyway, the other three, I'm doing Airbnb short-term rentals with them, because I can increase the profits from them. And it also has the effect of, I like the feeling of, and I like owning my properties, my primary residence. Here's just me. I like owning my primary residence free and clear, no leverage. Just because I'm very positive. I'm like enormously positive about the future of the planet, but I think we are going through a really, really tough time, right? And I think it's going to probably be very tumultuous in a transition period. So I kind of I'm prepared for the worst. I expect the best, but I'm prepared for the worst. So I'm very conservative. In a shit hits the fan thing, I want to know that number one, nobody can come and take my house. Number two, I have, if people, if family members and loved ones need to come together for a period of time, I've got several properties that I control, and I can house a lot of people. And because they're already furnished for short-term rental, if my sister and her kid says, we need to get the hell out of LA, I got a place for them to crash. So it kind of serves both, and it's a standalone good investment, plus I'm having fun, right? So it meets all my things. It's refuge, it's a sound investment, it's recession proof, because I have great terms on all of them, great terms. And so it doesn't matter to me, price is up or down, because they cash flow no matter what, right? So those are the things that I do personally for my properties, how I think about them. And then I like, in the paper, which is a bit much bigger section of what I have on the books, I like a combination of both. So some of it's short term, in that I would say 3 years or less. I don't do I don't work with the rehab flippers and have super short term ones. They're usually 2, 3, sometimes 5 years, that kind of a thing. But you want that short term stuff because and then you want the long term stuff. If you never go long, you kind of miss some of the benefit of those early payoffs that come in. Like if you buy a note at a discount, let's say, you bought it at a 10% yield even to go out the next 20 years, but it pays off in 5 years, your actual effective yield, you still get the payoff on the note. So it's if you don't go long, you're really missing out. So, but then that's money that's tied up. But then it's also money that you don't get a payoff and have to let it sit idle for a few months, decreasing your overall yield. It just keeps working for you and working for you. You don't have the job of redeploying it. So there's a beauty to both. But some of it's like, I don't like all of my capital be tied up in something all the time. So I have lots of that go long, and I get surprise payoffs, which is a nice for your yield. And then I got some that's short term that I know I'll have it back, and I have the velocity, and I can charge points or invest in something or flip something, like that. So does that make sense?
It really does. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that question. You brought up some fantastic things, and thanks again for being on here. And this is just one of my other things. In the early days when I was my little baby note queen self, I thought in my mind that realtors would be the ideal target for me to reach out to as referral partners, and they weren't. Most of them, in the general, I'm not talking about people that are on this call, of course, but
no offense.
Present company accepted that, like, there was no better way to get brain damage than to try to talk to realtors back in the day. So it was really frustrating because they were very, very low flexibility. If it didn't hit in the normal cash or cash to new loan, they just couldn't think about it. They didn't care about it. And in certain times, like right now when it's super hot, you don't have to care about it, right? But even in my market, that's pretty hot. I don't know if it's hot as Denver, but in Reno, Carson area here, Tahoe area, everyone says, hey, market's really hot, multiple offers, blah, blah, blah. There's no way you're ever going to get owner financing. And I said, that's funny. Of the 5 properties I picked up, only 1 was cash, 4 was owner carry. And everyone around me says, you'll never get that. Nobody needs to give it. There's cash and there's loans to go around. I go, so.
Well, yeah, it depends on who you're swimming with. If people are kind of money savvy, then they just consider that as another option, right?
Exactly, because it's such a great retirement tool for people. If an owner has a piece of property, they don't need the cash and it's just going to go sit in the bank anyway. Why wouldn't they carry it 3, 4, 5, 6% on that same property that they're already comfortable with? It's phenomenal. So, but thank you for being here and showing what really savvy real estate professionals can do, because when real estate professionals will open their minds and be able to have these conversations, you can create so much more value in the marketplace and do your clients so much more service, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, just put a stamp of approval on my little soapbox there. But, right, Alice, right?
That's right.
Well, because I just have to say this, like, another thing that made me want to shoot myself in the head is there were times when it was so frustrating because there were realtors who would never even present an owner carry offer simply because they didn't understand it. So they, instead of taking an offer, it was 900,000, 300 down with a 600 owner carry, and then I would have bought the note for 450. So they would have taken $150,000 off. They still would have got 750 before closing costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they go, no, we don't understand owner financing. We're just going to sell to this other person for 600,000 cash. They cost their client $150,000.
Oh my God!
Because they didn't understand and weren't comfortable with owner financing and how a note can be sold even at closing. So that's just a quick little example. So where I'm just so tickled when I see real estate professionals understanding this conversation. So
I'm just going to throw this out because I work with some nonprofits, and part of my deal I've committed to as one of my intentions for the rest of my real estate career is that we learn how to use real estate to create cash flow to do good stuff. And so one of the things is, now with this scenario, my mind's working on another income stream to create for these nonprofits. So an owner could essentially donate a property to the nonprofit, then we can create this ongoing income stream of it besides, and not mess with, what do we call it, toilets and doors? I mean, not mess with people.
Right. So you just have them create the owner carry paper on it. And just make sure you're compliant with all the Dodd-Frank things. So you're going to have LMO or NMLS, all the things, all the letters that need to come with it. To write a lot of paper, you've got to get compliant with someone on your team. That's not hard to do. It's not that expensive to pay for. You can find somebody who's willing, a broker that probably be willing to underwrite that for you. So it's a phenomenal thing. And just think about how much good that does in your community. So is this a nonprofit in your local town?
I work with a couple right now. One's a food co-op. The other is a really cool organization called the Conscious Alliance. And they work with really well-known bands all over the country. And they funnel a lot of their money toward things like Pine Ridge Reservation, food initiatives in their local communities, all kinds of stuff. It's really cool.
So that is so awesome. So that's very inspiring. And so if you add this other piece in it, then so you're already doing things that support your community. And how much better are the communities in which we live when there's a higher percentage of home ownership versus people that can't get out of the rent cycle? Now they have to qualify. This is not a charity, right? They have to qualify. Right. Just like you can't be an indulging parent or you ruin your kids, you have to have some sort of underwriting that makes sense. and criteria. But just think if your nonprofit can make money for itself to keep doing its things, and then you accidentally in the process create homeownership for 5, 10, 15, 20, 5 new families a year even. How does that start to change your community? They start, building equity for their family. They at some point they pay it off. Then they have more money to spend going to dinner, getting their kids' classes, investing, saving for their future. It starts to make a community better. So I just love the idea of get your money. I mean, okay, this is just a soapbox thing, and there's always exceptions, but like, the wealth vampires on Washington and Wall Street, you gotta learn how to disconnect from that feeding machine that they have us in. And if people can do, like I have notes all over the place, but what I care about is the community, and more of my activities are community centric because I can make a bigger difference. Even just me, one little person. We're a small family operated investment company buying property and paper, either one with equal ease, doesn't matter, but if I can create more home ownership in my town, let's say for that mobile home project where I created, I did owner carry on it, like 18 homes in the last 18 months. So that's 18 more families that eventually will have more stability. And so then they'll have more money in the community and more money in the community. And then if I can get investors that are local to quit sending their money all the way out to Wall Street, if I can get them to invest and buy me out of the paper and only need 5, 6, 7%, or they can anyway. I'm just saying there's so much more economic resilience and wealth that we can build in our communities when we just keep the money local and keep deals local. I don't know. That's just my little. Does that make sense, Alice? I think
that was very exciting. Yeah, that was really cool.
And that's why. Yeah, so it's really awesome to make money for yourself and see your own investment portfolios going up. But when I can couch it in the context of a larger noble purpose, then it keeps the fire going. Like, because look at what you can do with what you know how to do. I mean, it's just so, like, it matters a lot. It matters a lot. People learning how to do business one mom and pop to another and balance risk and reward. It has to be equitable. And how do you do that? So anyway, gosh, you were such a nice surprise visitor today, Alice. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I don't want to dominate the whole conversation, but it's been fun.
Yeah, very fun.
I'm off now. I'm going to listen. All right.
All right. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. Uh-huh.
Thank you. Okay. Axel, is there any other things that have come up?
We have before Alice leaves here, Chris Christensen asked, Alice, can you repeat your contact information again or chat it in?
Yeah, thank you. It's Alice Brink at 816-365-9496. Just give me a call and then we'll connect. Okay. 816-365-9496. Thank you.
And then a logistical question. Alice, what is the statute of limitations in Colorado to pursue a borrower in default? Do you know that answer?
No, but I'll find it out.
You can probably Google it right now, statute of limitations, and they'll come up with, it's usually somewhere between 6 and 10 years.
Okay. Chris said probably 5.
Okay.
He believes it's 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that. But
that's a good question.
We'll
I mean,
that question was asked by me. This is Sri.
Hi.
Hi, Don. How are you?
Very good.
So I had a note, non-performing second, and I have it right now. I'm going through it right now. Mm-hmm. So, the borrower hasn't raised that issue yet, but I read in some forums that it's 6 years, but there's conflicting answers. Is it 6 years from the last paid date, or is it 6 years from the maturity date?
Well, I think I'm not an attorney and I'm not regularly these things, right? But I think it's from the last time there was any payment made on the account. So like is this something you just recently bought?
Yeah, about a month ago. I'm just recording my assignments now.
Right.
I actually just did the Google,
Uh-huh.
and it says 6 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
saying,
yeah,
right? 6 years from the last
from
pay
what?
date.
Let me look.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
It says the statute of limitations does not begin to run until the maturity date of the loan, even when the borrower defaulted many years earlier. Whoa, that's
Okay, that's
oh,
good.
that's really
yeah,
interesting
that's huge.
because that actually stretches you out a lot more.
Yep.
Oh,
it
this is Frescona. That's pretty reliable. That's good.
Yeah. So when I'm dealing in a state, well, since I'm not a specialist in that, I would have an attorney help me. Even though, like, gosh, you can get a lot of different answers from attorneys if you ask them the same question. But like, if anyone knows this, this is what I'm because I've bought a couple of non-performing seconds. They weren't institutional paper; they were private, and I since they were past the statute of limitations, and because like I just stick them in the drawer because I bought them it's more like an option price, like a $50,000-$60,000 loan balance, and I bought it for $5,000. I stick it in the drawer. I may not be able to foreclose from that position very easily, but at some point someone's going to want a payoff, and they're going to have to come deal with me to get for a release. So, but I'm always kind of curious if if people if they know that question too, like, okay, even if you're way past the statute of limitations, when someone goes to refinance or sell that property, I'm pretty sure they still have to deal with you to clear title.
That is if they haven't filed, tried to strip you in Chapter 13, right?
Right, if they haven't lien stripped you already,
Yeah.
which they can only do if there's no equity. Do you have equity in this?
Yeah, I think partial equity. I have, I think 50% partial equity.
Hey, do you mind, Sri, just telling us the deal? Like, we have 10 minutes here. Like, tell us this deal that you ended up buying. Do you mind just telling us the story about it?
Yeah, it's in Colorado Springs. I bought it with a pool of 15 notes.
So you bought 15 notes all in once?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
And this was part of this. And I mean, I should have included statute of limitation as one of the criterias. But what happened is, I live in DC market. I actually bought a note in Maryland where I think the last pay date was 2005 and the maturity date was 22. So my attorney over here, I mean, Maryland attorney told that, the statute of limitation doesn't kick in until the maturity date. So I just put it on the back burner and never thought about it. Now, when I bought this Colorado note as part of this in Facebook group, in note buyers group, they were saying it is 6 years from the last pay date. And I was getting concerned, but yeah, so basically it's a second position note. They are paying the first. I have 50% partial equity in this.
Okay, so can we make that real with numbers? What's the value of the collateral? What was it? What did the appraisal or BPO come in at?
I don't do BPOs on seconds. I just triangulate based on.
And how do you know? How do you know what your equity coverage is? I mean, you must have some idea of the value.
Yeah. What I do is I look at recent solds.
Okay, so you do your own comps, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I pull 3 comps with the same number of bedrooms, bath, similar square footage, similar type of home, year built within last 5 to 10 years of the subject property.
Mhm.
I mean, I would do what a BPO is similar to that, but I do it myself because as part of due diligence, I'm looking at several notes. So
Yeah, fantastic. So what did you come up with as the value?
I think it was. I don't have the numbers before me. I think it was right around 250 something.
250. And what's the loan amount, the UPB, the unpaid principal balance of the first?
I think the payoff on the first last I checked was 165. If I'm not wrong.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And the second was.
What's the UPB of the second that you bought?
I was at 50%, so I'm assuming it was 140 something. I don't have it before me.
Okay, so basically 250 minus 165 is 85. So that means that you have $85,000 coverage, and if
Yeah.
you think that was 50%, then that note was, could you have paid, was the UPB as much as 170,000?
Yeah, it was 160 something. Or
160? And how much did you pay for that note?
I think 34,500.
34.5.
Mhm.
Are you kidding me? That
Yeah.
sounds better than most people get. That's 22 cents.
Well, let me tell you what happened.
People are paying a lot more for paper.
I know, but what I'm saying is this is a partnering trade. So the total deal was for I think it was 8 or 9 million. I was one of the several buyers. I was not the
Okay,
one.
so you're buying in huge tranches.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is I don't have I don't raise that kind of money to buy that big, but I'm a part of a big it's not a partnership or anything, it's just
Right.
for that particular trade.
Gotcha.
So we get a notice about 45 days ahead of time, and then we say, how much can you put down? I said 400K for this time, and
Right.
everyone comes together and we specify. Then we get the notes ahead of time. We divide it up into different pools, and depending on who transfer the wires the funds first, they get to pick first, or
Oh,
we
great.
go we go round robin and pick the pools that we have. So we each pool is not exactly the same, but sometimes it could be. It's not exactly the same. What I mean by that is, if you have 10 pools of 100,000, each 100,000 pool is going to have a different pool. I mean, different flavor to it. You know what I'm talking about? Not all in equity. Some of them could be partial. Some of them could be negative. So it's a mix and match of a lot of things in a.
Yeah,
100,000.
gotcha. I mean, you're not going to knock it out of the park with, every note out of 10 notes. You might have, a few that just completely are losers, but then you have some really solid ones with maybe 30-40% of them. But anyway, so this is phenomenal. This brings up another great thing. So here's about relationships for you. Like when people are buying one-offs, not inside of these huge tranches that you're talking about, the pricing for that note could have been 50 cents.
Trust me,
Easily,
I bought for 50 cents in November and December. Trust me, I know that. When I was going one-offs, yes.
Yeah. So so it's about relationships, doing business with people like and trust, because then working together, you guys get much better pricing. So that is phenomenal so actually here, Shri, you have 100% equity of your investment, because if you only brought 35,000 to the table, you're covered all day long against your the value of the property. That's huge. That's huge. And plus you got a performing first in front of you. So obviously there's emotional equity there. Someone wants to stay at home.
Yep.
So thank you for providing those insights. I'm always really curious about what people are really doing.
Right. Donna, I had actually posted a question in the chat, but I'm going to ask it. Can I?
Yeah.
Can I ask the question?
Absolutely.
So, as I told you, I buy non-performing seconds, and my exits so far have been sell the reperformer or borrower refinances, assuming that there's no other negative items on their credit. I season the note for. I mean, they start after putting some money down, and then they refinance. Or if the borrower has a 401k or any retirement account, they borrow or do an early distribution and pay me off a discount. But I used to be a landlord. I got hurt, landlord and a rehabber. I don't do that anymore. I got hurt really bad in around 2010, 2011.
Right.
All I do is notes right now. I have some rentals. What I want your suggestion or advice is, I want to generate cash flow from these notes. How do I do that? Like, you know what I'm saying? How do I plan for that? And once the loan is reperforming, what do I keep? What do I sell? Because if I sell, I get cash and I can reinvest and buy more notes. But if I keep them, then I'll get cash flow. But so I'm not able to make up my mind.
Well, kind of a little bit of both, right? Because it depends on if you have all the principal you need, and let's just say, I don't know, just pick a number or whatever. If you get 2 million invested and I would guess if you get even half of your portfolio performing and on a deal that you bought like this that you just described, you're doing really, really well. I would guess your returns are above 50%.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're really, really good, right? If everything stays solid, but there is some risk if there's a market downturn and there's more unemployment and different things like that. But then but if you're still building up, if you took a beating sometime in the last downturn, like you said, gosh, the rehab flips kind of did me poorly, or big last downturn, you're kind of like, I'm still building up kind of my nest egg in a way. So you're going to want some that you keep and some that you churn back around, and a really, really positive, amazingly. So let's say on this note, you already have the numbers. If you get it reperforming, you're only in it for 35,000. As a non-performer, you could have easily paid 50 cents. You could have paid 75,000 on this as a non-performer. Right. If you get it, so there's a $40,000. Or no, 30 or 40. Yeah, public math. It's really great. But look at how much of a profit. If you even sold it you got it reperforming, you could probably sell it for 85 or 95. And you could have 60 grand that you stick in your pocket, or just sell off a front end partial. Let's say you just sell off, let's make up a number. We have 2 minutes here. Okay, let's make up a number. The balance of the note, the UPB is what? Let's pretend 160,000 is what they owe you right now. Just make up a number in your head that you think this family could likely average afford. You haven't seen their financials, but let's just make up a number. Make up a number. What can they afford?
Let's say 500.
They can afford 500 a month. And what would you think you would do a modification? What interest rate might you give them?
Their current interest, I think, is right at 13% or something. So I'm going to drop it down to 7 or 8. Yeah, I mean,
okay. Jesus, no wonder they can't catch it. Okay, so let's say you put it at 7%. That's a great deal on a second. But if you make it affordable, the interest rate maybe won't matter to them. So if they can afford the payment, right?
Right.
Well, then they'll never actually get out of it. That it's too long. They'll never get out of it. So you'd have to drop it down. Let's say you're going to make it 360. You'd almost have to give them a 1% rate or do some sort of other thing. But let's say they can afford more. I just want to this is a great thing. Okay, so let's just say this. Let's just say, and there's no principal reduction. You might say, hey, if you can bring me $10,000, I'll do a principal reduction for you. Plus, I'll drop your interest rate down to 3.25%. Or let's just put 3% because you don't care. You need it reperforming. The interest rate, the face rate that you do is very inconsequential, really.
No, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. The way I look at it is, I want to keep all my exit options open. So if I want to sell this note, I look at what my investor note buyer from me, who's going to buy the reperformer for me.
Right, but if you can't, I understand that. So I'm going to do two little exercises with you, and we got to wrap it up here. But let's just pretend you did this. Okay, 3%. I don't know. For people that can't see my my phone, my calculator.
All right.
So let's just pretend that you did that, and maybe they brought 10,000, and maybe no. So now they only owe you this. So good. So that works. So it's basically for the next 300 months, something like this. It's really low. You're encouraging them to pay. Now, I already know that you can sell this probably what's someone going to want as a rate of return buying a reperformer?
I've been getting 15%, 14% minimum. That's what they're asking.
Okay, so
I'm
15.
talking to wrong people, I guess.
Yeah, so even those people, would pay 54, you have a $20,000 upside plus the 10,000 you got as the down payment, or a loan mod fee. You made $30,000 on that right there.
Right.
Or even if you sold it as a non-performer, you could flip that note right now for the same profit probably, or more.
Really?
Yeah. You just told me that last year you bought something for 40, 50 cents on the dollar, right? As a one-off instead of getting this. So right now you could just flip that note, right? Or let's just say you did write this out and then you go 150. Oops. I just want to get this back in here. And just say that they actually can afford it, but then you want to get your money back, your seed capital back. So let's say and I'm only just going to, for quickness, go, if I just need 35,000 to get my seed capital back,
right,
and my partner's going to want 15% even, you're only selling 78 payments. You got all your money back, and for your investor, then 78 minus the 300, then you got all your money back, and in 7.5 years from now, you have 221 payments of 700 coming in.
Right.
So you got all your money back out, and you still have 154,000 to collect on this note.
And I have a huge late fees and everything on the back end. I haven't even touched that yet.
So I'm just saying, you could flip this note right now. You could get it reperforming, and probably based on what the person can actually afford. But the most powerful thing for you to do is leverage other people's money and sell off a front end partial, get your seed capital back out of it, go and redo it again, and keep the tail end of the note as a massive retirement plan for you. I mean, that is one of the most powerful things. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So, well, thank you for bringing that up. That was amazing. I really appreciate you participating in this conversation. That's awesome. So, Axel, before I wrap up, is there any last emergency things of people that want to connect with each other or something?
No, Don. Just I have some additional questions, but we can talk about it offline.
Okay, sorry I didn't get to everyone. These are, so please submit for next time, or if you submit them to Axel, maybe I'll make a little video just based on some of the questions if I can. But I just want to remind you, if you haven't already, that I've rearranged the Note Queen, the Citizen of the Realm thing. So if you create a login at notequeen.com, there's a lot of free material there for you, and easy ways to access and connect more if you want to do some consulting or look at our live events. Oh, so please please go look at the dashboard if you haven't in a while. It's an all new setup. Another thing I want to just remind you that I have a live event, 2-day event at South Lake Tahoe coming up on October 1st and 2nd. It's a very small, intimate gathering. I can only take 50 people, 50. So if you're interested, please look at that at propertypapersummit.com. And I just want to thank you again for your time and attention. I don't take it lightly that you would spend an hour of your day with me, and just go out there, use your powers for good, and create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. I will see you next month. Take care.
You've been listening to Virtual Coffee with Dawn Rickabaugh. For more, please visit notequeen.com.